Hey, Bobby Manning here. Welcome to a news edition of the Garden Report. We've talked well over a month now about Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant. Should the Celtics do it? Should they not? Is it real? I want to flip it over to the other side of the coin here, which some people have talked about in terms of this discussion, and a reason for trading Brown in particular is the fact that Brown is on a 2-year contract, and he could potentially look to leave the Celtics in free agency in a short period of time here. And do the Celtics have a long enough window with Tatum and Brown to contend for a championship over that stretch? Contend beyond that with Jayson Tatum's free agency in 2025 afterward? It's a factor. It's always been secondary for me, and the Celtics have some strong advantages in terms of the CBA that they can utilize to try to keep Brown in Boston long term. But first, Celtics continue to react to this rumor. Caught up with Grant Williams at Celtics junior camp on Friday, and here's what he had to say about the reports linking Brown to Durant.
Yeah, it's a significant rumor. It's something that you want to do your best to take like with a grain of salt. I feel like JB's mature in the mindset, and he knows that. And I talked to him, texted him, give him my, reach out as much as you can. But it's one of those things that it's the league, it's the business. One of those things you can't really be discouraged by, because it's not that we don't like. It's not like I feel like we love JB. Everyone here in Boston, everyone on the team. So same with, and it kind of shows how valuable he is. The fact that top 10 player in the world, like you're the focal point. Like it's one of those things. I remember back in the day with Al Jefferson, and KG. It's one of those things like you're just like, oh dang, like Al Jefferson, but it's not even like the difference. I think JB is amazing. I think he's going to come and approach it even better. He's going to take it with like a competitive mindset too. So if it doesn't work out, which I don't know what it is or not, I don't know how, I'm not involved in none of those processes. But I think that he's going to come back with a chip on his shoulder. I love that, because I know how JB responds, and he's going to be very, 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 very secure. He's secure of himself, and he's secure of what he's going to be.
So 3 things interesting about this answer to me. Number 1, Celtics have in fact talked amongst themselves about the Brown rumor, Grant reaching out to Brown and checking in on him. Tatum wasn't able to ask him directly about the conversations the team has had about the report at his camp a couple weeks ago, but he had said that the team had not made a statement on keeping the core together. It seemed more like he was avoiding the implications of that question, Durant, rather than actually revealing any details about what the team has discussed at this point. But Grant did here. Number 2, Grant saying he doesn't know whether it's going to happen or not happen tells me the communication internally on the Celtics hasn't been definitive on this front, unless, of course, Grant and Tatum and others have been posturing and don't want to undermine necessarily what the Celtics front office may or may not be doing here. And then number 3, still back to my first point, no direct call for the Celtics to not do this. We want to run this back. Tatum said he loved the team, but not necessarily in strong defense of Brown, I thought. And you haven't really heard from anyone else on the Celtics beyond that. Remember the locker room discussion last year about how the team felt about Tristan? You had Kemba tweeting the cap, and there's been other moments throughout the years, the Tatum-Brown relationship, where photos had been sent out and different messages had been made. Now the Celtics have sent their message that these talks haven't been serious. This is just a discussion, and even there's not necessarily a fantasy style button being pushed here to send that offer of White, Brown, and the pick that had been reported there. You've read all this in a bunch of different places at this point. Most recently, Adam Himmelsbach today writing that the Celtics and Nets haven't had serious conversations about the Durant-Brown discussion. So, I don't know, to me, this, as Grant said there, is a pretty serious rumor. So do you make an exception to any stance you would have if you're Brad Stevens of the front office about not commenting on every rumor and actually come out and say, we love our team, we're running it back, we're not looking into moving Brown, and we're on to 2021, 2022, 23 rather at this point. Now Brad Stevens hasn't been one to call the radio like Danny Ainge would or Wick Grossbeck would here, but at what point do you shut this down. This is around on the Garn report here and end this if you're not seriously interested in doing it. Now, if you are interested in doing it, you're tiptoeing a line into camp that's going to be different here, where these reports continue to flow and the team itself, including Brown, are trying to prepare for next season, undermine some things that you want to do with this roster as it stands right now. So that's ultimately the decision that the Celtics are going to have to make here, along with trying to keep Brown in. And that's what I came to talk here about today. Wrote it for CLNS Media the other day. I believe that came out Friday morning. So go check that. The different ways that the Celtics can keep Brown in Boston, and Keith Smith of Spotrac, as well as Celtics, with a handy guide this week. The advantages that the Celtics have to keep Brown in Boston. Now, he, of course, is signed 2023 24 deal that is less than the max. So, what ultimately happened is the not offer Brown a competitive extension right now. In fact, they are capped at 4 years, $165 million as he becomes extension eligible this fall. That's 36, 39, 42, 45, 120% increase on his salary with 8% raises. And that's less than the max. And it's even less than another team can offer him once he hits free agency, which is 184. Just about a $20 million difference. Salaries higher across the board. It would make more sense for Brown to leave Boston and sign an extension this year, but he does hit year 7. And that includes the extension he can sign with the other team as well if he was dealt to the Nets, so there's no advantage to that. But once he hits year 7 after this season, so next summer, Brown could sign the designated veteran extension, which on paper would be 5 years, $248.8 million. So an extra year at $57 million, 30% of the projected cap, would beat out any other team's potential offer. That's an advantage. And on top of that, an All-NBA appearance in 23-24, the season before he becomes a free agent, would trigger the Supermax. $50 million a year and up, nearly $70 million in 2029, all coming to nearly $300 million, which is the same extension the Celtics essentially are going to be able to offer Jayson Tatum next summer if he opts into, or if he makes All-NBA once again next year, or rather the following year. So he would sign that and then have to make the All-NBA team again in 23-24 to trigger Supermax. So those two extensions kind of go hand in hand. Tatum will know before he signs him whether Brown signed his. So those could be directly connected, or what Brown could potentially do is go to free agency in 2024, where 2-8 would still be available to him. At that point, I don't think the Supermax would be available to him if he declines it, even if he makes it at that point. So that would cap him out at 248, which is still about $60 million more than another team could offer him at that point, which as we 184. Whether that's, if we're looking at some of the teams in 2024 and their projected cap space right now, it's quite a few with more than enough. The bad teams: Houston, Orlando, Indiana, Detroit, San Antonio. The Raptors should have some flexibility close to that. You got the Hornets and Jazz, who are kind of in weird spots right now. The Lakers only have Anthony Davis on the books summer of 2024, and that is a player option. So they'll certainly have some flexibility beyond LeBron at that point. And then you got teams like the Warriors and 76ers are going to use their cap by that point. Teams that probably won't be competitive in free agency, like the Wizards, the Kings, even the Bulls, Cavs. You got the Pelicans, Mavericks. Could they carve out just enough space? It's tight enough where you wouldn't think so. And then his hometown Hawks, Timberwolves, because you have multiple $20 million players on those teams as it stands now, as well as the Phoenix Suns, the Bucks, Heat, Clippers, and Nuggets. with their massive salaries, you can probably rule out, because of the hard cap, from even doing a sign and trade for Brown at that point. So who would be the big contenders? The the Hawks possibly on a sign and trade. The Grizzlies maybe if they're one of the powers in the league at that point, but that goes back to the leave. Would it be to have his own team? Would it be to have a big market? That slims down that list even more. And then if it comes down to competitiveness, you would think Celtics, who on their books still have Malcolm Brogdon, still have Rob, still have Marcus Smart at that point, among others, Tatum. You would still give them a pretty good shot at keeping Brown in 2024, regardless of the trade rumors that have floated at this point, regardless of his role, his marketability, all those different things, just because of the money. If he makes All NBA, if he becomes that level of a player, he stands $100 million more than that, actually, from staying in Boston compared to leaving, even if he leaves via a sign and trade. So 290 BA Supermax versus 184 to leave. It's not all about the money, but that's gonna be tough money to pass up come 2024. But what I also wrote in my piece, Jaylen's essentially the only major free agent scheduled to hit the market now. You could see Harden probably won't opt into that player option on the second year of his current deal. You have Draymond and some other guys that could float if they accept their player options. Doubt it. But player options. So Brown looks like the name of 2024. The teams line up cap space at that point to position themselves to have a third star if they get Mitchell. Some things that can line up potentially and allow Brown to scan the market at that point. As I said, Celtics can still come back with 248 if he doesn't find anything. So I think odds are Brown will test free agency and possibly end up back in Boston at that point. Is Horford still around? Do they have Smart and some of these other guys on the book still at that point? That's when the roster gets majorly expensive, and a big reason the Celtics tax in the last few years here, so they don't have monstrous repeater tax penalties into these new Brown and Tatum deals that are going to come down the line here. So they are starting that clock this year. They are showing that they're willing to go at least $45 million tax payment wise beyond that line. Will they push 100 to keep Brown and Tatum in Boston? That'll be the next question ultimately once we get to 2024. In 2025, when Tatum would be expected to become a free agent at that point. Both these guys, all NBA players, you're talking about 2 supermax contracts on the Celtics, which Celtics will take if that's the level that Tatum and Brown are going to play at here. And if they are, you're talking multiple Celtics championships at that point. Should be enough to keep Jaylen Brown in Boston, in my mind, unless something unforeseen happens here. That's the Garden Report for today. We are brought to you by Athletic Greens. Of course, go over and get Athletic Greens. And you'll be supporting CLNS Media, and you'll be supporting your own health. Athletic Greens. We've told you about them again and again. It's a powder that you put in each morning. You'll get vitamins, minerals, probiotics, antigens, a little bit of everything that you need for your health. It tastes great, a tropical flavor that's easy to get down. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe us, as we've told it to you, go check out the reviews. They have 7,000 5-star reviews. People love this product. They have great bottles, container when you get that subscription, and they're also going to throw in a free year of vitamin D as well as 5 free travel packs with your first purchases. Support your immune system, support your health. Go visit athleticgreens.com/garden, athleticgreens.com/garden, and if you message John Zanis, show him the receipt, you're going to get a Garden Report t-shirt. I'm Bobby Manning. We'll catch you throughout the week here together for our Garden Report. If there's any new news, we'll pop in here. Appreciate you continuing to support the channels on Celtics All Access, CLNS Media, as well as CLNSmedia.com.